One, got a couple more coming. Thank you for joining us today. Really great to have you here. Okay, here we go. Everyone, my name is Brooke Rollins. Welcome back to the USDA press conference room. Very great and grateful to have you all here. Obviously, this is a very meaningful week for all of us that love freedom and are so proud to be Americans and to celebrate 250 years of a country, the best country on earth and in the history of the world. But to think, too, and we'll hear a little bit about this today, how this country was built, what it means, what it was built on, a country built on horseback, a country built based on private property rights. That's why this press conference, I think today is always going to be meaningful, but today perhaps even more so than normal as we move into the weekend. As we know, in just 2 days, America will celebrate a truly incredible milestone, our 250th birthday. And while the Declaration of Independence was adopted on July 4th, 1776, it was 250 years ago today, July 1st, that our founders passed the Lee Resolution, formally severing our ties with Great Britain. That was passed today, and declaring the colonies free and independent states. Called by history and guided by Providence, our founders, many of whom were farmers, set the march of freedom into motion. And they did so inspired by an unshakable faith in a set of what at the time were truly revolutionary beliefs: that our rights come from God, not from government, that government exists to secure liberty and to serve the people, and that we, the people, have the right to seek redress if and when our rights are infringed upon. And today, you're going to hear a little bit about a lot of our incredible ranchers whose rights have indeed been infringed upon. Honoring this priceless inheritance and ensuring that the spirit of 1776 stays alive remains the task of our time. In recent years, we've witnessed government agencies and radical environmentalists wage a merciless assault on our farmers and ranchers' fundamental right to work their own land. Families who have worked the land for generations, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th generations, have fallen victim to all kinds of reckless environmental lawfare, from being forced to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, forced to surrender prime grazing land, forced to sell their properties, and forced to stop farming and ranching altogether. These attacks on American farm and ranch land represent an existential threat to everything we hold dear in this country. That is why the entire Trump administration and all of us here at USDA have been unwavering in our defense of private property rights, including through our released a few months ago, the Farmer and Rancher Freedom Framework back in February. Working with all of these warriors, we've won key victories to keep farmland in production and protect the very foundations of our freedom and our prosperity. We removed politically motivated criminal charges against the Maud family of South Dakota. We, thanks to my amazing friend who you'll hear from today, now our special envoy for American ranchers, John Rich, worked with President Trump to protect hundreds of acres of rural Tennessee farmland in a battle that was won with the TVA. And working with HUD Secretary Scott Turner on Andy Henry's 175-year-old family farm in New Jersey from being seized for an affordable housing project through eminent domain. Again, just a few of the many examples we focused on over the last year. These are real wins, but there is so much more work to do. We are still fighting for many others, including Casey Murph, who is here today with his lovely wife, and for the farmers and ranchers in Potter Valley, California, under the threat of losing their water supply. The good news is we now have a better tool for finding out when our producers are being unfairly targeted by their own government through our USDA Lawfare portal, which we launched in April of last year. We have received over 600 submissions from producers across 47 different states. We work through this portal meticulously and daily. We have very late night Zoom calls to talk all of the cases through and to ensure that while we can't help every case today, we are very seriously carefully and intentionally reviewing everyone and then moving out where we have the resources to do so. Many of those producers that we came to us through the Lawfare portal are here with us today, and you'll hear a few of their stories in just a minute. These patriots know firsthand what it's like to be the victim of lawfare, and that's why in just a moment we will sign a memorandum of understanding, an unprecedented MOU with the Small Business Administration that will accelerate our ability to protect farmers, ranchers, and small businesses from weaponized regulations, targeted enforcement, and environmental radicalism. By teaming up to build this multi-agency across the Trump cabinet effort, we are working every day to shield and protect producers from lawfare, working to expand the fourth pillar of our farmer and rancher freedom framework, namely partnering to preserve farmland and ranchland for future generations. Together, USDA and SBA will jointly intake, investigate, and resolve complaints coming through our lawfare portal that deal specifically with other federal agencies. We will analyze patterns of overreach and drive deregulation and accountability across all agencies in the federal government. Critically, this partnership is not limited to USDA and SBA. It also involves coordinated collaboration with other agencies, including our partners at the Department of the Interior, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Justice, just to name a few, to ensure that every farmer has the due process and the fairness that they deserve. I want to thank Administrator Loeffler, who of course grew up on a farm herself, for helping spearhead this partnership, as well as Stephen Pierce, our Director of Bureau Land Management, 38 days on the job. I also want to thank our incredible congressmen who have been leading on this, Congressman Eli Crane and Harriet Hageman, and to all of our congressional champions and legal partners who are here waging this battle alongside us. Most of all, thank you to our farmers and ranchers here today who had the courage to speak out and to fight back. Your stories are driving and will continue to drive this change. If our founding fathers taught us anything, it's that we should always have the courage to stand up for what is right, no matter the odds. Thanks to the actions of President Trump and today's MOU, the odds are much better starting today than they were under certainly the previous administration. This is about getting the government off the backs of our producers so they can get back to doing what they do best: feeding, fueling, clothing America and the world. Rest assured, we will not rest. We are a 7-day-a-week, 20-hour-a-day operation here at USDA. We will work to root out every trace of lawfare from our government. We will work to call to task, whether it's the state of New York and solar and wind, whether it is the state of Arizona, the state of Washington taking away water rights. We will not rest until we have run down and elevated and fought alongside every one of these cases across the country. With that, I'm going to turn it over to another fellow warrior, our Small Business Administrator, Kelly Loeffler. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much. What an incredible honor to be here. It's a bit of a full circle moment for a farm girl from Illinois, but also as a former member of the U.S. Senate Ag Committee. It was a great honor to be able to advance the fight there, but now really working with an incredible leader for agriculture in Brooke Rollins. I mean, she has used her passion, her inspiration, her influence to really make a difference here for the next 250 years. We know for the last 250 years, our strength has depended on the hardest working Americans who cultivate the land, who build local businesses and lead their communities in rural America. That's why President Trump has and will always continue to prioritize American farmers and ranchers. They are America's original small business owners, the fabric of our nation that keep us fed, fueled, and clothed. And out of the 36 million small businesses across this nation that make up 99% of all businesses, they comprise 2 million. It's incredible. I know firsthand how important this was, being raised on a family farm, now 5 generations. I learned from a young age that when the government gets too big, the burden falls on the workers in the field, the driver behind the wheel, the hand on the plow, and the local businesses giving it their all to keep their business open to the next season. We're at a crossroads in America as we celebrate this important occasion amid a rise of socialism that calls for, in the words of Karl Marx, the abolition of private property and the centralizing of the means of production in the hands of the state. Our farmers and ranchers represent the exact opposite of that: independence, stewardship, personal responsibility, and the right to build, own, and pass on something to the next generation. The Trump administration is standing firm to protect not just free enterprise, but your land, your families, your individual rights and liberty for the next 250. And with this MOU, the SBA, the USDA are working to restore common sense to federal government that too often fails to work for the people it represents. Starting today, we're giving America's producers a direct line to fight lawfare, the rules, the regulations that drive up costs, that drive down productivity, and that take away land and opportunity. We're directly supporting the small businesses that do not have the time, the money, the legal resources to fight the government on their own. As part of our new MOU, the USDA will serve as the front door for the complaints through the Lawfare portal that Brooke just talked about. SBA, through our Office of the National Ombudsman, and Robert, will you wave your hand here? We've got our great ombudsman here, is a true fighter. And this agreement really formalizes something that Brooke and I have worked on for the last year and a half, advocating for farmers and ranchers. So when she called me a few months ago, it was a no-brainer to get in and really formalize this. Obviously, a couple practical aspects. You get the clear access into the portal, and then it helps us identify patterns of systemic abuse of the federal government or NGOs or any other entity or institution that is targeting our precious farmers and ranchers. And we've obviously had tremendous success fighting against the radical Green New Deal, against the Biden administration mandates, the $6 trillion administrative state that they poured on the hardest working Americans over the 4 years that they were in office. So our partnership with EPA, for example, is relaxing the diesel exhaust fluid. We've focused on right to repair and other initiatives. So these are exactly the kinds of problems this MOU and so many others will focus on. And President Trump knows that the backbone of our nation's national security starts right in rural America. So he's making sure that tax cuts, fair trade, energy dominance make a difference for all of you. And I want to leave you with the words of one of America's most famous founding farmers and founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. A government big enough to give you everything you want is a government big enough to take away everything you have. It's an honor to work for a president that understands that small business is big business, and to fight alongside Secretary Rollins for this incredible, important community. Thank you. May God bless you. May God bless America.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. I'm going to ask our recently appointed special envoy a direct direction from President Trump, who wanted his good friend John Rich in the battle every day and working to fight for all of our landowners. And so what a joy to have a White House special envoy for American landowners. Please help me welcome the great John Rich.
Thank you, guys. So my family started homesteading in the Texas Panhandle up around Amarillo in the 1840s. My grandfathers came back from World War II. They farmed. My brother is a farmer. Farmers, to me, are the hierarchy of American citizens. They should be treated as royalty, farmers and ranchers. But unfortunately, they're kicked around like tin cans on a daily basis by state governments, local governments, municipalities, utility companies, NGOs. Everybody seems to be against the farmer and the rancher. I don't know if it's their ignorance that that's where their food actually comes from, or a broader pattern of socialism, communism, and things that are creeping into this country, where they'd sure like our food supply to be dependent on one of our enemies instead of our own homegrown American farmers and ranchers. So my main job is to identify people like these. Alex Fasullo is a great example. Casey Murph is a great example. I find these people on social media, shooting videos on their farms, on their ranches, telling the stories of what they're up against, and they don't know what to do other than try to get their story out. When I see those stories, my job is to then interface with those farmers directly. I get on the phone with them, I find out what the story is, I find out what they're up against, and then I bring that to Secretary Rollins, or I bring it to Administrator Zeldin. I bring it to whoever is the right people to push back against what they're dealing with. And we're having results right now. It is an exciting job to have. It is a significant job to have. I am an unpaid guy. I still make my money playing country music. Thank goodness. People still want to hear what I have to say up on a stage. But this is significant work. This is not about success. This is significance to me. And I think with this type of effort that you're putting together, both of you are putting together today with this memorandum, I think it's going to supercharge the defense of the defenseless. Isn't that the point of being an American? You know, we always hear the left talk about community, community, community. What about this community? What about the people getting their hands dirty? What about the people that have calluses on their hands that are actually supplying the food chain to our country? What about them? And today is when we start full force protecting our fellow citizens. It's a commandment in the New Testament that says, love thy neighbor as thyself. This is not my land I'm defending. This is my neighbor's land that I'm out here to help defend. And with the help of Secretary Rollins and Lawfare, we're going to do a really good job. I think there's going to be a lot of successes in the future. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Before Administrator Loeffler and I sign the MOU, I'm going to ask a couple of our farmers to say, or ranchers to say, just very quickly to put a little color on this story. I'm going to start with our first generation rancher. At 33 years old, Facilo decided to jump into agriculture. She is the future. This is what we have to be able to do. But just a quick story, Alex, very quickly about what you're facing in upstate New York.
I just want to say thank you to everyone here because they sent an incredible letter to our governor last week. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend doing so. I'm speaking on behalf of rural upstate New York today, who has been targeted by the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, otherwise known as ORES, in New York State. ORES was secretly created in a 2020 budget bill, granting unchecked powers to a shadow bureaucratic agency that now supersedes all local zoning, moratoriums, and our state's entire Department of Environmental Conservation. ORES trumps our home rule, which is granted to New York State residents in Article 9 of our state constitution. Since its founding, ORES has gone on to approve nearly 100% of the time every single permit that comes into its pipeline for wind and solar complexes. More than half of the solar corporations applying for these permits are foreign. Fort Edward Solar, which is upstream from my small farm, belongs to Boralex, a Canadian corporation that was just recently acquired by Brookfield Asset Management, an even bigger Canadian conglomerate with ties to its sitting prime minister. As we speak, Boralex is asking New York State to transfer its permits to Brookfield without any further review. These permits include thousands of acres of prime farmland and designated wildlife habitat. At the same time, these foreign corporations are allowed to pay to mitigate wildlife carnage, like bald eagle deaths. And in the case of Alley Cat Wind in Western New York, Cornell University will make $2 million from the projected eagle takes. It's a pretty good deal for them. This is the same university that helped downgrade what the state considers to be USDA prime farmland as part of its mineral soil group system. All environmental destruction at solar and wind complexes is redacted from public viewing. We don't get to know. Our home rule endangered wildlife and our water, considering the renewable corporation Invenergy, punctured an aquifer in Western New York building Horseshoe Solar, causing some landowners to lose their water. All of it is being sold to the highest foreign bidders while cutting out our ability to weigh in altogether.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Now, if I could have, thank you. We're going to keep battling that. Chris Heaton, why don't I have you come next? Just a quick story on what you're facing.
Thank you, Secretary. It's good to be here today. I live in southern Utah. I ranch in northern Arizona. And in 2023, President Biden created a national monument on my ranch. And that monument restricts us in a lot of different ways. Mainly what it does is currently, as we know the proclamation right now, is it says that the grasslands are objects, the drainages and washes and ditches are objects worth protecting. Now, in the ranching world, cows eat grass. And that's what our cows eat. And they're an object worth protecting. So they're saying that if our cows eat that grass, we could face criminal fines or penalties. The canyons and washes, all of our ponds, our storage ponds and drainages, that water our livestock are in those drainages worth protecting. And if we maintain or repair those, we are subject to criminal penalties. This monument's new, 2023, so we still don't have a lot of information on it. But what we do have is they're tying our hands, and then they have told me that depending on the administration in power will depend on how they interpret this monument, on how they're going to enforce it. That does not work for running livestock. We can't switch back and forth every 4 years. So with the help of Pacific Legal Foundation, we have filed litigation in federal court. That case was recently just dismissed, saying that we lacked standing. We don't lack standing, so we are working with Pacific Legal to see what our next options and routes are, and obviously with the secretary and with everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Well done. We'll have Casey Murph from Arizona that we've been working with say a couple words, then we'll sign the MOU, and then we'll take some questions. Casey, thank you.
It is an honor. It is a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to speak with all of you today. My name is Casey Murph. I'm here with my wife, Megan. We ranch in northern Arizona. My family's been there since many decades before Arizona was a state. Like other Arizona ranchers, we rely on lease land to ranch, to be sustainable. Myself, I rely on Arizona state lease land. And our governor, Katie Hobbs, has decided to make as much Arizona state lease land available as possible for solar industry. Now, one thing that I have learned before I started getting into this, I didn't really realize what kind of acreages we are talking about. And I think a lot of Americans don't realize we are not talking about hundreds of acre installations. We are not talking about even thousands of acre installations. Folks, we are talking about thousands of square miles. In order for the solar industrial complex to be able to make power effectively, it will require anywhere between 150 and 250,000 square miles of land that's not sustainable. We cannot have agriculture in that country if we devote that much country toward solar and we take agriculture off of it. We'll be getting all of our food from other countries, all right? So I hope that that people start looking into this. I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity and for helping with this situation. I started praying when this started, and I didn't pray for deliverance. I prayed for warriors, and I think I've got the best warriors in the world that God sent to me. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you. It is a national security issue, and I appreciate so much all of the ranchers standing behind me and all of the great civil justice organizations like Pacific Legal, like America First Policy, like Texas Public Policy Foundation, Mountain States Legal. For those of you that are our Institute for Justice that's been at this for a really long time, they are our partners in this battle. We will continue to build the armies, and we will not rest until we've made great progress. So I want to thank the incredible ranchers behind us, our great two congressmen and women that are here. Kelly and I will sign the MOU, and then we'll take some questions. We'll open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, Jerry Hagstrom from the Hagstrom Report. I've heard you say a lot about solar. There are some farmers who say commodity prices are so low, how can you possibly discourage the conversion of land to solar? And the other question I have is, you didn't say anything about data centers. What's your view on the conversion of land to data centers?
Well, I'll take the second one first. And John, I don't know if you want to join me up here. Feel free to add anything, or Harriet, you or Eli, really anybody. So on data centers, obviously that is an ongoing debate, even across and amongst friends and in the rooms. We were just talking. My mom was here a little bit earlier. I don't think she's still here. She's a state legislator in Texas, where that debate is raging right now. In fact, I think that Governor Abbott yesterday made a pretty big announcement on it. I think that the importance of private property rights, the importance of preserving American farmland, the importance of ensuring that we are going to have another 250 years of freedom is paramount. Does that mean that it is completely incompatible with data centers? I don't think so, and I know President Trump doesn't think so, but what it does mean is that we have to be extremely intentional. There should be plenty of land in this country where data centers can be built that will not be on prime important farmland. So that's my take on that. On the first one, the solar and the commodity prices, listen, there is no doubt our farm economy has been struggling for some time now. The cost of inputs under the last administration went up 40-50% on average, while there was not one new trade deal struck. Under the Biden administration, we saw an $8 billion agricultural trade surplus when we walked out for the last time in January 2021. When we came back 4 years later, that surplus had turned into a $42 billion agricultural trade deficit. The markets closed around the world to American products. So you have sort of the perfect storm of input prices skyrocketing during 2021 to 2024, while at the same time you were shrinking markets around the world. Those are the things we're working so hard to correct right now. 19 new trade deals. We're expecting record exports for corn, for dairy, for other row crops. Tree nuts are going to be way up. Cheese is way up. We are going to have a remarkable, in 1 year, we've cut that $42 billion agricultural trade deficit in half. So just think about what we're able to move around the world as we're opening up the market while we're supporting the domestic market through biofuels, et cetera. So those are really important steps that we are taking so that no farmer ever has to be in the position where they can't stay in business because they can't make enough money. And hopefully that becomes the norm, not the exception as we move forward under this framework. Jerry, thank you for those questions. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Rachel Shin from Politico. Just following up on what you said about the trade deals, can you explain from an agricultural perspective why the administration chose not to renew the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement?
Well, I'm going to be very careful here because that is obviously, I'm the Secretary of Agriculture. I'm not the United States Trade Representative, nor am I our Secretary of Commerce or Secretary of the Treasury, who are our key leaders on this. No one's leading more than President Trump. These are his decisions. And believe me when I say he is very involved in every detail of all of these decisions, as a great leader should be. I do know that the president believes that there are some inefficiencies in the current system, that we have a pretty big trade deficit with both of those countries, and especially in agriculture, and that he is working to solve for that. Now, it doesn't mean that the agreement just goes by the wayside. What it means is that we are starting a renegotiation, which, as this president has proven over and over and over, no one is more adept or effective at negotiation than President Trump. I have no doubt in my mind that when we move towards those new agreements, whether they're multiples of agreements or whatever that looks like, that America will continue to be put first, that our goods, our products, our incredible producers, what they produce every day, will be even better positioned than they are today, which is what we need, and he knows that we need. But he saw the current state of affairs and believed they could be better for America, and he's taking action. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, Katie.
Thank you, Secretary. Great to see you, and great to see the farmers and ranchers from all over the country. What would this new MOU do to help prevent NGOs from attacking local farmers and ranchers through environmental policy and regulation? And then we've heard a lot about forest management failures by the federal government. As a result, we're seeing wildfires in the West this summer. We see them every single summer. I've heard from a lot of ranchers who say we want to work with the forest Service to help manage them, yet we don't have that kind of partnership. How can this department work with ranchers and farmers to ensure that our forest management is done properly and in benefit of both forest health and those ranchers?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to answer the second question first. I'm actually going to ask Becky Ross to come join me because she's dealing with this right now. You heard the question, Becky. While she's answering, I don't know if our ombudsman or Kelly want to speak directly to the MOU and specifically to NGOs. What I would say quickly is that we're taking everything on, and the fact that the NGOs have completely taken over a lot of this in a bad way means that we are ready to battle on that. But again, she may want to say something more. Becky, why don't you speak very quickly to the Forest Service and specifically the forests? We're getting rid of the roadless rule. We're working really hard to make those changes, but she and her ranch have specifically been the victims of that.
Thanks, everybody. Let's see, we got off the plane last night. We had just left our ranch. Currently, the pocket fire is burning on our place, 20,000 acres. We have so many stories, I don't even know where to start, but what it comes down to is the delays in the regulations, in the restrictions from Fish and Wildlife Service or archaeological reviews, and it just turns into this minutia of delays. We might have 2 to 3 years of delays to get an existing stock tank cleaned, or we have lawsuits where forest contracts for logging contracts won't be fulfilled. We have decades of waiting for cleaning up the forest from prior wildfires. We can't get dead standing timber and we can't get downturned timber cleaned off the forest. We have so many fuels that is fueling these fires. I had heard from a fire guy on this pocket fire that it was the strongest firestorm on Saturday last weekend of a fire that they've ever had. And it's wind and it's fuels on our forest. And we need to clean the forest up. And 5 years ago when I started notifying our local Forest Service all the way up of the delays and the issues, trying to just draw some attention, because more than anything, I think we all should be concerned that these delays are hurting our environment. And I'm just trying to be a steward, but with these delays, it's crippling us right now.
That's right.
And it affects our business. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Obviously, the roadless rule, which Clinton put into place in 1994, basically has completely compromised our ability to clean the forests up, especially in the more blue states under the radical environmental agenda. We changed that. We're getting rid of the roadless rule for the first time. We're already beginning to build roads again, start cleaning again. It's just from decades of bad mismanagement, poor decisions, bowing at the altar of radical environmentalism has led us to this point, and it is going to take a little while to pull it back, but we are doing that. I'm really proud of our forest team. I'm going to hand this to Kelly to talk a little bit more about your first part of your question, but I do want to take a moment. We did lose 3 firefighters just a couple of days ago, and for our team here at USDA, for the teams at DOI under Secretary Burgum, our 2 fire teams work together. It is a devastating loss, and there are 3 young firefighters who had their whole lives in front of them. It is our prayers, our thoughts are with them. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen again. Our USDA flags are going to fly at half staff for a while. Our thoughts and prayers and just our heartbreak goes out to those families. But thank you for asking.
Thank you. No, that is devastating. Thank you for raising that, Brooke. And just on the NGO, I think that's a clear example of weaponization. It's not just weaponization from the inside, but from the outside. And we have examples that show that there's just a playbook that says this fence or this feedlot interferes with the beauty of the area. And that's enough to get into these administrative law proceedings where there's one person who's judge and jury, and the farmers and ranchers have to fight this. They come in after 12, 14, 16-hour days, mud cake boots, sweat on the brow, and now they've got to deal with lawyers. And these cases are lasting on average 2 years. I mean, we have evidence of the Biden administration, on average, dozens of cases, last 2 years, cost $2 million. Families just don't have that. Generational farms are successful through grit and hard work, but it's not about the money. And so this is a serious threat to the sustainability of the American farm, to the farm families and the lands, and again, to our food supply. And so you think about the playbook that these multi-$100 million NGOs are pushing to jam the Green New Deal down the throats of Americans on the backs of the hardest working Americans. And that's why Brooke and I were talking this morning. This is not happening a moment too soon. So.
Very good. Good. John, any final words? Come on, Mr. Special Envoy. Did we get, was there anyone else with a question? Okay. Yes. Becky, you're Arizona, correct? Yes. Yes. Thank you, Jerry. I'm going to turn it over to our great special envoy. Just a quick note. We deal and know a lot of celebrities. Many are nervous because of Trump derangement syndrome to ever step up and step into the gap and answer the call. And this one not only is answering the call, but is leading the charge. And we just couldn't be more grateful to him. So thank you, John.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take us out.
Yeah, I would just encourage all landowners out there, if your land is being infringed upon, you're being attacked or shoved around, even if you don't like social media and you don't like flipping your iPhone around this way to take a video and tell the story, please do that. That's the reason we know about Casey Murph. That's the reason we know about Alex Fasullo. I comb through that. Our teams comb through that and do it. And here's another thing I just want to say. I thought the music industry was diabolical. When I start looking at what New York State is doing to their people, when I start uncovering the way that a solar or wind company comes in and breaks apart farmers and makes them sign NDAs to seclude them in their own silos who've known each other for 50 years, do not allow them to compare notes or talk, and then lease the land with an elbow to the back of their head. They're said, hey, we're going to offer you this money for your land. They go, I don't want to lease my land. They say, well, we'll take you to court then if you don't want to take the money. That's how it works. And they go, well, we don't have the money to fight you in court. I guess we'll take the lease. So they take the lease and they go sign this NDA so you can't talk to the farmer next door. And they break them up into these small little increments so they can divide and conquer. That's over. My job is to shine gigantic spotlights on these situations because they operate in the shadows, guys. That's how they win. They operate down there on these local levels, on these state levels, and they don't think they're ever going to wind up being talked about in a forum like this. Those days are over. My job, listen, I know what a spotlight is, and I know how to aim it at somebody other than myself. And that is my intention with this job, and it's an honor to represent farmers and ranchers and to work with you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank y'all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for coming.